everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and it's another day and another project. So in the last video, I asked you guys to vote in the comments about what I should do with the band on the tailgate. It said Chevrolet in it, and the general consensus by probably 98% was take it all the way off and buff out the tailgate. So you guys spoke, I listened, the band came off, and I buffed out the tailgate, and then I added a little bit of flair to it myself. Somebody mentioned that I should do some hand lettering and pinstriping on the truck with Harmon Garage, and that's not a possibility because I've tried the hand lettering and the pinstriping before, and I can't do it, and I can't afford to pay somebody to do it. So what I can do is make vinyl graphics. So I went ahead and cut out some Harmon Garage graphics to put on the tailgate after I buffed it out. The buffing came out great, by the way. It was really clean, unmolested paint underneath that badge, and I was like, man, that's really gonna show once I buff it, but I put a little extra care into buffing it. Came out really good. You can't even tell where the band was. And then put the Harmon Garage on there. I got a new surround for the tailgate handle, so that good and looks like it's supposed to. And the back of the truck is really coming together. So, and when I was making the decal for the tailgate, I went ahead and made some for the doors too, because I didn't plan on putting anything on the tailgate. That kind of came from the comments. I was like, hey, that'd be kind of neat. But I did plan on lettering the doors from day one. And while I was making the decals for the tailgate, I went ahead and made the decals for the doors too. So got Harmon Garage logo on this door. And we got another one of the same logo on this door. So I think it's pretty cool. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. I'm not gonna say tell me to leave it or tell me to take it off, because if I get too many votes to take it off, I'm gonna have a hard time doing it because I want it on there and I like it. But leave me a comment, let me know what you think. I really want to know your guys' opinions. Do you think it looks good? I went with the black because I didn't want to do silver or white or something that was really going to be like, oh my gosh, look at me. But the red is light enough that you can still see the black good. I think it contrasts well, and I like the look of it. So that's what I did. And the next project we're going to do is going to be on old Rumrunner also. It's time to do something with this hood. So it won't close all the way because it won't clear my air cleaner, and changing out the air cleaner is not an option. So I have an idea of what I'm gonna do. I don't want to do a traditional cowl hood because you can go buy a traditional cowl hood for this truck, but I want to raise it up to where it'll close without hitting on the air cleaner. So I have an idea. I'm gonna get this hood set up on one of my body stands, and I'll go over with you guys what I want to do. All right, I got the hood set up on my stand here. I got a bunch of the dust and everything cleaned off of it. Now what my plan is, instead of getting a cowl and putting it on here, I want to take right in this body line and cut it all the way back. Same thing on this side. And then I'll relieve this body line here in the center. And then I want to take that whole center portion of the hood, raise it up enough that my air cleaner will clear, and then fill that back in. So it's going to come from nothing at the front, and then it'll really gradually come up about 2 inches in the back. So it'll be next to nothing at the front to 2 inches. I'm gonna fill the back in. I don't wanna leave it open like a cowl because I don't want water running down and getting in there or anything like that. I wanna keep the factory body lines, and I wanna make it look subtle. I want somebody to walk past it and look at it and go, something looks different about that, but I can't tell exactly what it is. So that's the plan. Don't know how it's gonna turn out. Hopefully it's good. If it's not, I'll throw it in the scrap pile, find another hood. But I usually don't give up very easy, and I think it's gonna turn out okay. So I'm gonna go get some sandpaper or something, and I'm gonna go ahead and sand all the paint out of this area here on both sides so that I can mark better lines and make better cuts and stuff, so it's just cleaner and easier to work with. And then I'll start getting that cut, and there's gonna be a lot more to it than just cutting that line. I'm gonna have to separate the 2 layers in the back. I'm gonna have to remove the panel bond that holds the hood to the cross bracing inside and everything. I want to leave the cross bracing where it is to keep support on the edges of the hood until I get my raised part filled back in, and then I'll cut that bracing loose where I need to and kind of make it follow the shape of the hood and rebuild it so that the hood is still strong. So we're not lightweighting it, we're not anything like that. We're not cutting bracing out and leaving it out. I want it to be just like a stock hood, but I want to raise it up just enough that I can clear my air cleaner. So I'm gonna get something out to sand all that paint down to bare metal. We'll get it sanded down, and then we'll start marking it. Okay, well, as you saw, I got the paint all cleaned out of the areas that I'm going to cut. And at this point now, I still don't know how I'm gonna work the body line to put it back together. I think what I'm gonna have to do is I wanna cut it on the slope, and I'm probably gonna have to, I'll cut it on this slope right here. And then when I put my filler piece in, it's gonna make this, it's gonna stay at that angle, and it's gonna come over further than where this rounded part's gonna be. So I'm probably gonna end up having to cut a strip out of here and move this over so that that lines up. Right now, my main concern is getting it cut, getting it raised up, getting it tacked back together. That'll show me exactly where I'm at, and then I can figure out what I want to do to go back together with it. But I got that body line all ground out. I got where I'm gonna have to relieve the hood up here all ground out, and I got that all ground out. Now the reason I ground it out instead of just marking it and cutting it is because, for one, it's easier to mark bare metal. It'll be easier to see. And 2, I don't want it to burn and curl the paint, because I'm not going to strip all this paint off this hood. I'm going to feather it out, get all the peel and clear coat off of it, get it all smooth, put body filler where I have to on the work that I do, and then just go paint right back over it. I'm not stripping the whole hood, so I don't want to do heat damage to the paint when I'm cutting and welding and stuff like that. So I got it cleared back to where it should be okay. And the third reason is, if this is all clean and ready to go when I get it cut, get it raised up to where I want it to be, I can go ahead and weld it in right away, and I'm not messing with flimsy cut pieces trying to clean them up so I can weld them. So I'm gonna get a marker. I still haven't decided how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna figure it out, and then we're gonna make a cut. Okay, so I think the best way to mark my line here is going to be with some fine line tape, because I can stick it on one end and I can kind of draw it out and get it to where it looks like it's good and straight, and then lay it down, and I should get a straight line versus trying to figure out a way to get it to where I can mark a straight line on it. So I can put the fine line tape on there, and then I can take a marker and trace the edge of the fine line tape and then peel it off, because if I try to cut through the tape, it's just going to melt it and throw it. So I'm using this as a setup point, and then I'll go back and mark it with a marker, and then I'll peel it off, and then we'll go ahead and start cutting. I already did it on the other side to see if it was going to work out for me, and now I'm going to go ahead and do it over here. Alright, now I got my mark. The other side is fine line tape, but it's not marked with the marker yet. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. And then we just got to come back and try to precisely cut along our line. So we're at the point now where there's no turning back. It's going to be what it's going to be. So nothing to it but to do it, right? So let's get cutting. Got it cut front to back on both sides. I did not cut all the way through the bracing because, like I said, I'm not going to. I'm going to go in and take the panel bond out of here so the upper skin will come loose from this all the way around where I need to for it to move. And then I'm going to come in here along this body line right here, and I'm going to cut this straight across, and that will relieve my top skin from this main rear brace. I'm going to leave my front brace all intact, and I'm just going to relieve the skin from the framing, and then I'll move the outer skin up the distance that I want to do it. And I'm going to put just some bracing, like some 16 gauge bracing in the back. to hold it up where it needs to be. And then I'll go ahead and I'll weld my filler pieces in the side where I raise it, where the gap is, and we'll figure that out. And then after we get that done, we'll come underneath and I'll cut out the bracing that I'm gonna need to cut out for the air cleaner to clear, and then we'll rebuild the rest of the bracing so that it's still there and still makes the hood strong, and everything will be good. Because back here, this is like one of the main structural points of the hood for the hinges and everything else, but I only need like that much of it gone for the air cleaner to clear. So I can just trim this part out and still leave all this rigidness back here. And then we'll kind of fill in some gaps and put in some bracing and all that to make it strong. But you guys may be able to tell it's starting to get dark outside. That means it's dinner time, and Harmon Garage don't miss too many dinners. So I'm gonna go ahead and get trucks pushed back, hoods brought inside, tools put up, all that good stuff. And we'll get back on it tomorrow. All right, well, as you saw, I got everything cut that needs to be cut. I got all the panel bond separated from the outer skin to the framework of the hood. And now I'm ready to move on to the next step. So I got the hoods, my dad came over, he's helping me out. We got the hood flipped back over, set how we wanted it. And I got everything to where I can move the center of the hood like I want to. Now, I've got these just 2-inch pieces of metal that I cut and cleaned up. And these are just going to go in there as a spacer just to hold that center part of the hood up like I want it to be in the back. And then before I go filling in panels and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to need to flip it back over and trim out some of the bracing, and then test fit the hood on the truck to make sure it's giving me the clearance that I need, because if it's not, this is all null and void. It's not worth it. So now that we got it cut, my dad's gonna lift up on the back of it. That's way too high. And it's right about there. Might be a little bit more than the 2 inches, but the way I relieved it and cut it, it's not buckling in the center or anything. It's just raising up that portion that I need it to raise up. So it's working out perfect. So I'm gonna come back here where I cut across the back. I already have it cleaned up. I'm gonna put these pieces in here just like this, and I'm gonna tack weld those in there. I'm not gonna solid weld them or anything like that. Just simply gonna put tacks on them to hold them. And that will hold the hood up where I need it to be. And if it's kind of flimsy or whatever, I might put a couple more spots in there just to help hold it. But I think that'll do what I need it to do. And then I've got to relieve that main rear frame where it's going to hit on the air cleaner and just make sure that it does what it needs to do. So we're going to get after it and keep going. I got it raised up. I got my tabs put in there, just tacked in that I wanted to get in. Now when I'm all done with this, I'm gonna take and fill this whole piece back here in to add strength to the hood. And then of course I have to do the sides and body work, all that, to make it look good. But I got both my tabs in. They're just tacked in place to hold it for now. And now I can do a little bit of relief cut work on the bracing in there. And so it should go over the air cleaner. And then once I get that done, then we'll test fit the hood and make sure it closes. Okay, I got this marked out pretty much where I need it to be. I'm not really going to try to follow the radius all that well. I just know that's the opening that I need for my air cleaner to fit in. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this across here and cut up here and out, and that should give us the clearance that we need. And after we do that, we can go ahead and bolt the hood back on, try to close it and see if it closes. Not super concerned with it looking real pretty right now, because I'm going to go back in and redo some of this bracing to kind of re-brace the hood after I get the outside all welded up the way it's supposed to be. So I can come back in, clean this up, make it look better. I'll put some bracing back in there and stuff like that. So for right now, I just need my opening to where my air cleaner will fit down in there, just to make sure the hood's going to close right. So we'll try that out now. All right, I got the hood set back on the truck, and it actually closes. For the first time since I've had this truck, it's got a fully closing hood on it. So it worked out good. I didn't get any buckling or anything in the front, and I've got plenty of clearance for my air cleaner now. So I think everything's gonna work out like I wanted it to. So I'm happy about that. So the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get the hood back off where I can work on it. And it's hard to tell now that I ground it, but where the inside edge of this body line is, I'm gonna come inside of that, and I'm gonna cut it along that body line. And then I'm gonna kind of put a pie cut in it. I'm probably gonna measure over maybe about an inch up here at the top. And I'm gonna put a pie cut in it. I'm gonna take that pie cut out, and then I can take what's left of this body line, move it over, and weld it back. Now the reason that I'm doing that is because if you look down here, if I go to fill this side in right here, it's gonna be straight up and down. And in my opinion, that would look terrible. So I left the radius down here in the bottom. Sorry, the light's not that great, but I left the radius down here in the bottom, and I left the radius up here on the top, so I could put that angle and kind of match that radius back in there. But in order to do that, I'm gonna have to pie cut that hood and move it over so I have an angle there. So I'm gonna get the hood back off. I'm going to get it back on the stand. I'll clean it up and draw it out, and then I'll get ready to pie cut that thing. Okay, to mark this out, I'm gonna go ahead and take my fine line tape again, and I'm gonna find the edge of my body line, and I'm gonna stick that down there to mark that. And then I'm going to draw it back and line it up with my body line back here. Like so. I'm going to take a tape measure, and I'm going to measure over 1 inch. From the inside, I'm going to cut on this side of this line. I'm going to measure over and put a mark right there. And then I'll cut from the inside of this line over to this line here, but I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to come a little bit in front of where my body line ends up here. And I'm going to line that tape up. And then I'm going to draw it back here. Put it right on my mark. And that's going to give me my pie cut. So now, when I cut this out, I can take this section of the hood and move it over. And it's going to give me a gap there. And then when I go to fill, it's going to fill at a radius and not just straight up and down. So that's the plan anyways. We'll see how it works out. It's just something that I think will work in my head, but I don't know if it's really going to. So I'll go ahead and get it cut out, and we'll try to move it over and see what happens. Worst case, it doesn't work out, I weld that piece back in and it's just more body work for me. Alright, I got my pie cut taken out. I moved this over and tacked it back in, and now as you can see, I'll have a radius there instead of just straight up and down. Now when I cut this out, I lost the strength of my body line. So I'm gonna have to pay real close attention when I make my templates and stuff to make sure I hold that up where it needs to be when I draw out my template. So when I cut my piece to weld it back in, it'll be right. So that's what we're doing now. I'm going to start getting my template made up. I'm going to make sure that the hood profile is straight when I make my template, and we'll get our template made up and then we'll keep going. Well, I got cardboard templates made. I cut out my pieces, and my templates weren't that great, and I had to make a bunch of little filler pieces and stuff, but I got those all tacked in, both sides. I measured along the way on both sides, and they're both even height-wise, and there's no buckling in the hood. So there's a little bit of oil cannon right there, but it's not over there. But it could be the way I welded it. All the measurements came out right. So as you can see, I took my pie cuts and I took that inch out and brought this together, tack welded it back, and then I put these pieces in at an angle on my body line. So once I get done welding and body working that's gonna roll off of the top and roll down in that body line and back up. So it's gonna be a lot of welding, a lot of grinding, and probably a decent amount of filler work and sanding, but I don't think, obviously if you really know these trucks and stuff, you'll be able to tell, but I don't think once I get it all body worked and sanded out and fresh coat of paint on it and all that stuff, it's not gonna be super noticeable. It doesn't look like I just took a cowl hood and put it on there and body worked it in, and boom, you got a cowl hood. It's what I wanted. I wanted it to be subtle. That's why I modified the stock hood instead of buying an aftermarket cowl hood. That, and by doing it this way, I'm saving a lot of money. Aftermarket cowl hoods are like 330 bucks. This isn't really costing me anything but a little bit of welding wire, a couple grinding discs, and some welding gas, I guess. My time's free, so yeah, it's coming along great. I'm happy with it. Got it all tacked together. Now I just got to sit here for a couple of hours and weld all that up. So we'll get after that and get it done. Well, it only took me about 4.5 hours, but I got all my filler pieces welded in on both sides, and didn't turn out that great. I mean, the filler pieces are good, but the center part where I cut it and raised it up, I got a lot of shrinkage. And I did this side all first, and I noticed it started shrinking and warping, and I thought, oh, well, I'm welding too fast. So on the other side, I slowed down and tried some more methods to help cool it fast and keep it from shrinking, and it's just as bad. It's got a dip here. This side's still hot. A dip here. But it's just gonna cause more work in the long run, but I can fix that. I think the reason it did it is because there's no bracing under the hood, and that metal of the hood is so thin and it's such a wide span. I think it just did its thing, because out here on the edges, I mean, I welded to this also, and these are perfectly straight. There's nothing wrong at all. So I think it may have just been because it's the thin metal and the big span and all that. I can go underneath and push it right up into place. It just doesn't stay there. So I think if I do a little bit of hammer and dolly work in my weld areas, it'll stretch that back out a little bit, or just do some shrinking in the spots that are lows. It'll bring them back. Now I am still gonna cut my bracing, put it back up against the top part of the hood here, and then I'm gonna build, you know, side pieces that go up from the original bracing to the original bracing to stiffen that top part of the hood back up, because if I don't, it's gonna look like a dang flag hanging off the back of a truck going down the highway. So next thing I'm gonna do is back here on the back where I had to cut it, where I raised it there, I'm gonna make out a template filler piece and fill this whole area here in. And I'm probably gonna cut my deals here back out so I can set it in there flush. That's not gonna be an extremely noticeable spot, but I still want it to look good. I mean, if you're sitting in the truck, you're gonna see it. So I'm gonna be staring at it all the time. I want it to look at least decent. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the sides. I'm gonna rough all this up. I'm gonna cut a template piece to go in there. I'm gonna tack it all in, probably take me another hour or so, and get that all in, and then we can start grinding and sanding and grinding and sanding and body filler and sanding and sanding, and yeah, you know, you guys get the picture. You've seen it all before. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a template made for across here and get a piece cut out and get it welded in. All right, I figured I'd give you guys a little update. I haven't gotten a lot done, but I've got some done. And I started working on the back here where I cut it, where it was raised. I made a couple templates for the edges and got them tacked in place. And I've been trying to decide what to do with the center. I wanted to put some kind of holes in it to let heat out and fresh air in, just because, I guess. And I came up with this. So here, I'll show you. I got those templates, cut them into metal, got them tacked in. And this thing has, it's flat up here, but it has a radius that goes like this, and then a radius that goes in and comes back out. So it's hard to try to make a template and cut a piece to go all the way across. I'm sure it's doable, and it might not be as hard as I'm making it out to be, but it's kind of being a pain in the butt for me. So I did the edges and got those filled, which turned out nice because I made one template and it fit in both sides, which tells me my angles and everything on my hood are the same, which is good. And then I wanted to do something in the middle, and I thought about just putting a plate across there, cutting a hole in it, putting some expanding metal in it or whatever. But I came up with this. I just kind of drew some lines and tried to optimize the area the best I could to get as many holes in it as I could, but with it having a pattern and not just randomly drilling holes. So there's no reasoning behind this pattern. I didn't try to do anything specific. I just wanted it to look intentional and be all even everywhere. So I got this piece. I spent quite a bit of time on it, but I'm gonna center it in the hood. Maybe. I'm gonna center it in the hood, put it in there. I'll get it all tacked into place, and then I just have to fill the sides, which shouldn't be too bad. So we'll I'll get that done and I'll keep moving. I'll update you guys again when I get something done. All right, I got everything tacked into place. I just got to go back and weld it all up and then add it to the list of stuff I got to grind. Not really doing a whole lot of time lapses on this project because it'd just be more and more and more welding, grinding, and I figure you guys are getting as much out of it, me just giving you updates, showing you when I finish something. So I'll probably do some time lapses again when I get to the body work and stuff on it, but for now it's just the same thing over and over. Make a template, tack it in place, make a template, tack it in place. So I'm gonna keep going on it. I'm gonna get this welded the rest of the way in, and then it'll be time to start grinding. See my excitement? I'll get back with you in a little bit. Well, I got started on the grinding and it's going okay. I started out with 60 grit fiber disc on my grinder, and I'm taking it down. You can still see the edges of some of the welds and stuff, but this spins so fast and it's so coarse that if you get too close, it gets too hot. I don't want to thin the metal out too bad. I don't want to burn through, so I'm taking it down close. And I might go straight to 80 grit on a DA, or I might do 80 grit on my little wizard wheel down there. We'll just see how it goes, but just grinding. That flapper disc, I don't know why I never found those things before. That's a God's gift. So it busted down really quick and easy. I worked with my wizard wheel on the other side of the hood for probably an hour. Maybe not an hour, maybe a half hour, but I got just this part right here done, just on this one line. And then I switched over to the flapper disc and I got this whole run here done in like maybe 5 minutes. So that was definitely the right choice to make. Now that I got that whole run of weld done on that side, I'm going to continue with the flapper disc, but I'm going to move over and work on this side for a little bit, just so I don't keep putting more and more heat in the same spots. I'm going to bounce back and forth. I'm going to set the other camera up I'll put it on a time lapse, show you guys a little bit of the grinding for a few, and then I'm just gonna keep grinding, and the quicker we get it ground, the quicker we can take some waves out, the quicker we can do some body work and get some primer and paint, get this thing finished up. It's been a long day of grinding, bending over this thing. I've been trying to sit on the stool and work, and then my arms start hurting, and yeah, I'm crying a little bit. I'm tired, but I took a break from grinding for a little bit earlier to let my compressor cool down because it was running non-stop and I don't want to burn it up. And why I was letting the compressor cool down, I did some hammer and dolly work and got my stud gun out and did a little bit of pulling on those waves in the hood, and I should have filmed it, but I was just one track mind. I wanted to get this hood done, so I didn't. So sorry about that, but I got it looking pretty good. I mean, I think I can pretty well scuff the whole thing up with 80, start putting some filler on it, start sanding it. So I'm gonna turn the camera around here, show you guys what I got, and we'll go from there. So I got everything ground as far as I need to. I'll be able to use very little filler and kind of shape it and hide it. I got this. It's kind of deceiving because I used some 80 grit to find out where my spots were, but I got it pretty dang straight. There's some really small, I wouldn't even call them dents, they're just kind of uneven spots, but they're really small and they'll fill with filler. Same thing on this side, kind of the same way. I'm trying to give you guys the best angle I can, but either way, compared to what was there, it's night and day difference, and I think it's looking great. I'm gonna put 80 grit on my DA, and I'm gonna go over the entire hood, get it all cleaned, scuffed, whatever, and then we'll be ready to mix up some filler and start laying her out. Okay, I'm getting some body filler mixed up, and I'm gonna end up skim coating this whole hood. It's got chips and clear coat peeling and everything, and I'd have had to sand it down to bare metal to smooth it all out, which wouldn't have been a bad thing, but I have to put filler on it to smooth it all out anyways, so I'm just gonna go ahead and I might not put a skim coat on the whole thing. I might just do like the little chips and stuff like that, and then I'll just use some high build primer that I can sand out for the other stuff, because that should work out fine. But I'm gonna have to put filler over most of the hood. I'm not doing that right now. Right now I just want to get basically the bare metal areas, because that's going to be my lowest spots that are going to need the filler, and I need it there to shape. So what I'm doing is I'm basically just getting the first coat out. It's the end of the day, getting ready to go home. So I just want to get this on here I didn't put a lot of activator or whatever you want to call it in this filler because I wanted to mix up a lot at one time, and it's going to be able to sit all night to harden. Hardener, that's what it is. You knew what I meant. So, like I said, I'm just going to go through. You may notice I have a glove on. That's not because of the filler. I'm not worried about getting it on my hands. The reason I have the glove on is because I want to do that body line down the hood. I'm not going to be able to get an applicator in there. So my best thing to do is just going to be get some filler down in there and then take my finger and just kind of spread it that way. And I know I'm probably standing right in front of you guys so you can't see, and I apologize, but I kind of got to get the right angle here to do what I need to do. So. And I got to work quick because even though I didn't put a lot of hardener in it, it's still going to harden faster than I want it to. So. And I thought I mixed up enough to do both sides, but it's not looking like that's going to be the case either. So I'll get this side done, mix up some more, do the other side. I used up everything I had made up. I got this side pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and mix up a little bit more. We'll slap it on the other side, and we're making progress. Another work day is done on this hood. I think this is day 5, 4, something like that. But I'm taking my time. I'm trying to do the best job that I can. Once again, I'm not no body man. I do kind of consider myself a fabricator, but I wouldn't say I'm great at that either. But definitely not a body man. The grinding, shaping, all that takes me a lot longer than it would some people because I just make it up as I go. But I got it all in filler, and it really lets you see it. I mean, with all the welds and the bare metal and all that, it kind of looked, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to say. But now that I got a coat of filler on it and you can see both sides, you can kind of get the picture of what it's going to look like. And I'm really happy with the way it's turning out. So here it is. Got filler. Body line's going to run down through there. This will all be kind of rounded off. This will all be kind of rounded off. And I did a lot better job than I thought I did on my fixing my waviness, because it really didn't take a lot of filler to fill it. So once again, this is just the first coat. I'm going to sand probably 90% of this back off, put another coat on, sand 90% of it back off, put another coat on. A good body guy could probably do it in 2, maybe 3 coats. It'll probably take me 6, maybe 7. But I brought the hood inside because I don't think anybody would steal anything, but I don't want to take chances. So I brought it in, put the filler on it. Somebody just honked at me. Anyways, I brought the hood in, put the filler on it. I'm gonna let it sit overnight. I'm going home, and then I'll come back in the morning and I'll carry it back outside, sand it down, and we'll see where we're at when we get to that point. So you guys hang tight. I'll be back in the morning. Okay, it's morning, I'm back, and the filler set up pretty nice. It all hardened up. It's good to go. It laid out pretty good for a first coat. I wish it was a little smoother, but once again, I'm not great at it. I like it because you can really see the look now. Like when it was just cut, I was kind of like, and then when I got the pieces tacked in, I was kind of like, and then I ground it all down, and I was like, I don't really know if this is what I want. But now that I got it all smoothed out and got the filler in there, it's got a really prominent body line like I wanted. And this will get rounded off, and I got those waves out of it pretty much. And I'm really happy with the way it's turning out. So with that being said, they're calling for severe weather today, and we already have like 30-mile-an-hour winds, and the wind is supposed to increase. So I don't want to take the hood outside and start sanding on it with 30-plus-mile-an-hour winds blowing around. So I've got some other things I need to do, I can do, whatever. And I'm gonna do some of that stuff. And it's Friday, and I didn't get a video out this week, and I don't wanna let anybody down that waits for my videos. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. This will be part 1 of my custom hood. And then I'll make another video of finishing it, sanding it down, and more filler, and sanding it down, and priming it, and painting it, and polishing it, and all that. That should be enough content for another video, and this video should have enough content on it. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave me a comment, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see you next time.